Okay, we'll start with this. An unexpected back and forth between former champion Sandy Ryan and Chris Cyborg. Chris was in action just the other day in the squared circle, and she won her fight via a first-round stoppage, to which Sandy Ryan reacted by saying, "Chris Cyborg, who have you been fighting?" Chris responded by saying, "Hey, I'm up for the challenge." To which Sandy responded, "2 rounds the max you would last, respectfully, and I'm saying that because it's the truth. But you can't just call out the top girls in boxing because you have a profile in your own sport. Go earn your stripes, woman." Yeah, I don't agree with Sandy on that. Chris responded by saying, "If I get to the 3rd round, I want a bonus. After 20 years of fighting at the top, one thing I've learned is an opponent with nothing to lose and everything to gain is a dangerous opponent. It's always surprising to me the level of arrogance of the boxing elite." To which Sandy responded, "No arrogance here, it's just knowing what I'm capable of." Chris responded, "Well, it must be frustrating being 1-2-1 in your last 4 fights. I can't relate to that feeling of knowing I'm capable, but constantly underachieving." It's getting catty now. Sandy responded by saying, "My last 2 fights have been main events in a world title fight. Shut the F up." To which Chris Cyborg responded, "Imagine bragging about losing 8 of your last 10 rounds and then posting this. I think the paint fumes went to Sandy Ryan's brain." Sandy responded by saying, "Not bragging, you idiot, just stating the facts, and you wouldn't be able to live with any top boxer right now, so stop calling them out just to talk shit on social media. Is that all this is? Witty banter online, or the makings of a fight between them?" Sandy Ryan versus Chris Cyborg was not on my bingo card, but I'll take it. Chris responded by saying, "Your arrogance is amazing. You won 2 rounds out of 10 your last fight. Lost 80% of the fight. You're 1-2-1 in your last 5. To which Sandy responded, "Okay, then why are you calling me out?" To which Chris responded, "Nobody called you out. Your manager reached out to my team asking if I would fight you. I responded to you asking if you are 154 after that. He said you would be a good opponent. He told us your heart isn't in boxing like it once was." Sandy responded by saying, "You literally tweeted last night saying, 'Could I make 154? I said yes. That's you calling me out for a fight, you cabbage. Go on about your day." To which Chris responded, "You're so goofy. Your manager has been messaging my team for 2 weeks, even before my last boxing fight was over. I put out the tweet to gauge how interested fans are in the fight. If I'm honest, you're about as well known in the US as my last opponent. That I don't agree with. Sandy Ryan has boxed on a major platform here in America not once but twice, and garnered good viewership, very good viewership both times. So her profile is growing here in the States to where her versus Cyborg is a solid fight." Sandy responded by saying, "Okay, you're talking absolute shit now. If I'm that unknown, why'd you tweet me? You're so dumb. You've been hit in the face too many times, and your face shows it. Now, get off my back." So here's the thing. Cyborg is 39 years old, and I hardly think that she entered into the sport of boxing to fight girls like the last girl that she fought. I'm pretty sure that at this age, she wants something bigger, something better, and something that pays better. Sandy Ryan, she's not otherwise preoccupied. She's been X'd out of the world title picture in the welterweight division, and while she could always move up to 154 and fight for a title there, I'm confident that she can win one. Even so, None of those fighters, none of those champions are as well known as Chris Cyborg, so a little side mission with her wouldn't be a bad idea. Chris has amassed a professional record of 5 wins with no losses, no draws, and 4 knockouts. She's a scrapper, a violent one, still missing some of the fundamentals, the basic X's and O's, but a fight between her and Sandy would yield a pleasing aesthetic. Sandy, the more experienced fighter of the two, has a record of 7 wins with 3 losses, 1 draw, 3 knockouts, having never been knocked out. In 10 professional bouts, coming off of 2 consecutive losses to Michaela Mayer, competitive losses and entertaining losses, but losses still. I'm not sure that she still has anything going with Matchroom, because she lost her last 2 fights. But this one isn't the kind of fight that Matchroom should promote anyway. Ryan versus Cyborg seems more like something you'd see as part of an MVP show on an MVP undercard. I feel like, ideally, they would be the ones that bankroll this. For some years now, after making her entry into the sport of boxing, Chris Cyborg has been trying to pin down a Clarissa Shields fight. But Chris is campaigning at junior middle, whereas Clarissa is all the way up there at heavy. Sandy's right there. And she needs to get herself back in the winner's bracket. She needs to get in position to fight one of those champions at junior middle for a title. I don't mind the idea of a Chris Cyborg side quest because Sandy's an action fighter, and so is Chris. Not sure what Chris's promotional situation is. I think she's with the PFL when it comes to MMA and boxing. I'm not sure. Sandy, her situation is a little vague too. Who would pay for this? Pay to make it happen. As stated, it seems like something you'd see as part of an MVP show, but we can hardly rely on MVP to pay to make a fight involving 2 fighters they don't have under contract. But I wouldn't mind seeing it. Just because of the aesthetic of the fight. It's gonna be an action fight. It's gonna be a barroom brawl. If they put it together, perhaps it's something that they should explore.
And 4, bro. That was Roberto Duran's record against the 4 Kings. 1 and 4 against the 4 Kings. What's Ryan's?
But what you're trying to say is what? That Ryan could win 1 and still be as great as Roberto?
He lost to Tank. He has a no contest with Dev Dollars, Devin the Dream Haney. So he's 0-1-0 against currently the 4 Kings. You can still be great and lose to your contemporaries.
It's the latest horrible take from Two-Tone the Superstar, who was a big supporter of Ryan Garcia's while he was hot, right after the Devin Haney fight that was ruled a no contest. I mean, he still is. Look at him. He's likening him to Roberto Duran. Bernie the Boxer, close friend of Terrence Crawford, says, Two-Tone don't know one thing about boxing. I have to agree. I mean, who in their right mind would liken Ryan Garcia to Roberto Duran? It's such a bad take. It seems almost deliberate. Are you trying to sound stupid? And maybe he is. Some content creators do. Some content creators are tantamount to shock jockeys in the 90s. They say things for reactions, whether they believe them or not. They're just trying to elicit responses, reactions, keep the metrics going, even if that means saying something stupid. I've seen some people accuse Skip Bayless in his heyday of doing that. You know, he's just saying stuff for the clicks. I think that's what Two-Tone is doing, because nobody that knows anything about boxing would liken Ryan Garcia, of all people, to Roberto Duran, whose record against the Fab Four might be 1-4 with the Fab Four, but he's an accomplished fighter outside of that, outside of the fights with Sugar Ray Leonard and Harvin Magler, Tommy Hearns. Roberto Duran is often described as one of the best, if not the best, lightweight that division has ever seen. Nobody says that about Ryan, about any division that he's ever fought in. So how could you liken Ryan to him? You can't, and make any semblance of sense. Two-Tone is still looking to siphon followers off of Ryan because Ryan is still a very popular fighter, and Two-Tone hopes that by talking him up, he can, in effect, become popular with Ryan's supporters, except that Ryan's stock is down. And this is a monumentally stupid take, but that's what you get from America. For how many weeks and how many months and how many years now have I been saying that the worst, the absolute worst boxing takes in all of boxing now come from America? These are not esteemed professionals covering the sport. Some of these guys are just fans with a camera, fans with a podcast. I'm one myself, but I could never be accused of saying something as stupid as this. See, a lot of guys that cover the sport these days are just looking to make a profit. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. The history of the sport and nothing, often making blanket statements like this one that are greatly lacking context because they don't even know what the context is. Does Two-Tone the Superstar strike you as the kind of guy that does his homework before he says something? This is a guy who makes money off of boxing while stealing from it and broadcasting it to everyone. The Fire Stick Boys are back outside. How many times over how many pay-per-views have you seen him say that? Though he's not the only one. In a very general sense, the American media are guilty of putting fighters like Ryan on a pedestal. Him and his contemporaries, after all, they're the ones that likened these kids to the Four Kings first. And none of these kids have gone on to become as accomplished as they were. None of them is a Leonard. None of them is a Hearns, a Duran, a Hagler. Not a one. I think the push is in order to stimulate the boxing market by implying that this generation's fighters have their own greats, their own ATGs. But I don't look at Ryan or Tevin. These are not kings. No, it's a parallel that is greatly lacking any substance, any context, likening these fighters to those fighters. They're not made of the same stuff. And you can see that when you view the footage. Moreover, you don't have to if you witnessed it in real time, that there's nothing about Ryan that you can liken to Roberto. Desperate times call for desperate measures. As boxing in America declines, the search for a face, the search for superstars within the sport. That's what that is whenever you see people make those comparisons. But the problem is that there are too many people still around that remember those fighters, and still some that are willing to do the research, willing to do the legwork. Can't pull a wool over their eyes. Ryan can still be great. That implies that he actually stands a chance. This is a fighter who never won a real title at 135 and 140, 147. What are we doing? So should we liken Jared Anderson to a young Cassius Clay? It's ridiculous. Just in keeping with the theme of overhyped American fighters, former unified welterweight champion Errol Spence Jr. doesn't appear to be returning to the ring anytime soon. All Things Boxing 817 via their Instagram account said, "Man, it's been a long time, Spence. If you're not gonna box, you need to go ahead and announce your retirement." Because you can't take a hint? Quit keeping your loyal fan base hoping and guessing. To which Errol Spence Jr. responded, "I been said I'll come back when I'm ready. No one is rushing me to do shit." Yeah, that's what it pays you to be a Spence fan. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he is retired. We're coming up on 2 years since the Terrence Crawford fight. And coming back doesn't get easier over time. It gets harder. The longer you're away, the more difficult it becomes to return, to where you start to ask yourself, why should you? Why put your body through it? Errol Spence Jr. was one of these guys to where he's got some size at his own weight. He's big for his own weight, but he won't be big in the next one. See, Errol was a decent-sized welterweight. But at junior middle, he wouldn't be big at all. He'd be a small fry. Hey, little. I saw a guy who goes by the name Dope DJ react to the story by saying, "If Errol never fights again, he owes us nothing. One of the greatest 147-pounders of all time." I don't know what the hell that assessment is based on, because it's not based on boxing. What precedent is there to rank Errol Spence Jr. as one of the greatest welterweights of all time? You're saying he's as great as a Sugar Ray Leonard, a Sugar Ray Robinson. For beating who? And winning what? Sean Porter? Ugas? For beating Danny Garcia, he's one of the greatest welterweights of all time? Are you out of your mind? Or do you just not know anything about the welterweight division? I would sooner think it's the latter more than the former. These young guys, aspiring content creators like Dope DJ, they love to speak out of context because they can't be bothered to do the research. They can't be bothered to do the legwork. Declining attention spans and print being more and more of a dying medium, it's not uncommon anymore to hear silly takes like this one. Read them. It gets progressively worse as time passes, accenting the desperation of that small substrata of boxing fans that swore up and down Al Heyman's PBC was the best thing smoking. A more sobering take from boxing insider Rick Glacier, who said, "Look what Errol Spence Jr. had to say about fighting. Errol retired without the announcement. The sustained beating Crawford gave Errol is the reason, as Errol knows himself well to recognize he's now completely shot and shouldn't be boxing any longer. Sad but true. His heart isn't in it anymore. I remember when Joseph Parker got knocked out, got beaten down by Joe Joyce. It didn't take him long to come back because he wanted to keep fighting. And look at him now, on the cusp of world title honors. A few weeks ago, Jack Catterall lost to Arnold Barboza, and he's already got another fight in the books with Harlem Eubank. Obviously, because he wants to keep fighting more than Errol does. We're coming up on 2 years now since the Crawford fight. He might have needed 1 to recover from those injuries, maybe 1, but 2? Hell, even 1 is a lot. The beating that Errol took at the hands of Terence Crawford is tantamount to the beating that Tim Tszyu took at the hands of Bakram Murtazaliev, and Tim didn't wait 2 years to come back. Why would he do that? Why would he do that if he wants to keep fighting? See, the writing is on the wall. Some people just don't want to read it. Errol don't want to fight anymore.
Probably shouldn't.
The reason that some people are still urging him on and urging him to come back is because they see what's going on, what we've been talking about for years. The PBC stable is thinning out, and they're not signing new fighters. They don't have a new generation of guys to carry the banner into the next era. So they're calling upon... They're hoping the Charlo brothers will come back. They'll have a resurgence. They're hoping that Keith Thurman can spice things up. They're hoping that Errol will come back. These guys that are in their mid-30s. Quasi-retired, not committed. Errol doesn't even seem like a bad guy. You sort of have to separate him from the people who support him, because Errol Spence Jr. by himself seems like a good guy, but his fans, there's something else. There's an air of that latent homosexuality you see with Gervonta Davis' supporters. Gervonta Davis' fans, the real reason they support him. There's some of that when it comes to Errol. With Errol's fans, oh yeah. So he can't make 147 anymore, and there's no reason to, since the welterweight division is a dud. It's as dead as a doorknob, dead as it's ever been. The junior middleweight division, however, is thriving and deep, and there's a lot going on there, but where would Errol Spence Jr. fit into that picture? As stated, Errol had some size for a welterweight, but as a junior middle, he wouldn't be big at all. He'd be on the smaller end of the spectrum, 2 years removed from the sport, and counting. Older than the young gunners that are there now. Xander Zayas, Virgil Ortiz, Tim Tszyu, Bakram Murtazaliev. Which one of those guys do you think Errol can be? There was a recent image uploaded of Errol Spence Jr. with members of his family enjoying his time and enjoying his life. I mean, he seems happily retired, even if he didn't announce it. Does he need to after this much time? Manny Pacquiao coming back doesn't help it, but is that what they want? Do they want Errol Spence Jr. to come back in his early 40s, mid-40s? Fighting guys? It's pathetic. The real reason they want him to come back, it's not even about Errol, it's about them. They want some recompense for being so wrong about him. So wrong about how good he is. They swore up and down on a stack of Bibles he was going to collect Terence Crawford's eye. Well, the exact opposite happened. Terence Crawford took him away from you. Terence Crawford, by all accounts, retired Errol Spence Jr. Errol, who's not the kind of champion who can rebound off a loss. He's not made from that stuff. Some fighters have the intestinal fortitude to do that, the great ones. But Errol's not one of them, and there's no harm in telling the truth, because that's reality. No insult. Doesn't look like he's coming back.